Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Let's Talk. We're talking about Burma burning again. Are you familiar with Burma burning again? Well, this is what happened. A few days ago, the military has once again taken control of Burma. It's declared a one-year-long military emergency, state-run, a state of emergency rather. It seized control of the general election outcome and the winning party's assets, including Ms. Aung San Suu Kyi, and many of her MPs have been arrested. They had won a landslide victory in a recent election. The armed forces had backed the opposition, who were demanding a rerun of the election. However, the government accused this election of fraud and has decided to cancel the election, arrest Aung San Suu Kyi's party membership, leaders as well as its MPs, and has declared a state of emergency. What's happening in Burma again, Myanmar as we call them? I'd like to discuss this with yourselves. I'd like to find out your views and of course like to find the real stories behind why this has been called. Aung San Suu Kyi has been very close to the military for the last few years. She had been happy to even sacrifice human rights for the minorities within Myanmar just to stay in power. But the very devil she has been in bed with has decided to strike her and sting her in a bad way. Let's talk to our guests. Mabrur Ahmad, co-founder of Restless Being, and I think, is it, how do I pronounce this? HTIK, PhD student from School of Law, Queen Mary, University of London. Welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm having difficulty hearing you clearly. How do you pronounce your name? How do you pronounce your name? Huh?
Thai.
Okay, don't hold on to the microphone. Drop the microphone and now say it again.
Thai.
That's better. That's very clear. Taik. Welcome to our program. And Mabrur, welcome to our program. Both of you have joined us very well. Taik, you are a Myanmar citizen, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What's happening to your country?
We have got this news on Monday morning in Myanmar that the military has overthrown the governments and NLD governments and taken over and detained like a top leader, including some member of the governments, and they are hosting their Nepido in their residence area. There is the story is still developing, and we are monitoring what's going on in this yesterday and today. Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think the government has cancelled the election?
There are a couple of reasons. First, Commander-in-Chief, the main line, is need to retire soon in some months, in 3-4 months. So my analysis is he can be very insecure all the cases he has been the international stage. Although Myanmar domestic law is protected the retired general, but I'm not sure how he feel about his protections in international stage, which is in ICC, ICJ, and Argentina court. And this could be one reason, and there could be other reason that about the business or political element, and then this is it's also a part of the military culture. Actually, it's not really surprising because this is how the military has been maintaining whatever way. It doesn't have to be. We have a constitution, so we don't have a constitution. If they feel it's not protecting their power, and they will always go wild, you know. So this is, I would say, this is partly like the reason of their maintaining their power. Okay. And the landslide victory from NLD government is a kind of a threat in their power, especially General Main Line, the Commander-in-Chief.
Okay, let's go over to Mabrur. Mabrur, you are an activist, co-founder and director of Restless Being. I know you've been doing a lot of work for the Burmese people, Rohingya people especially. What's going on in Burma right now? What's happened? Why has the government, why has the military annulled the election?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to understand really is that within the constitution by which the entire system is held up in Burma, the army, the commander-in-chief is allowed to do as he has done. And so although we use the term coup, it's not actually a coup because, you know, the constitution allows the commander-in-chief to call a state of emergency at any time, to take control of the legislative, executive, and the judiciary power, and essentially become judge, jury, and executioner. So they haven't couped anything in a sense. When we normally talk about coups, we're talking about a military which overthrows a civilian government, normally a democratically elected government. But that's not the case here. Like I said, it's allowed inside the constitution. So I think the first myth that we have to dispel is the idea that there ever was any democracy in Burma. The thing that we called democracy was always fraudulent to begin with.
But whatever form of democracy they had, there was an election. An election had given the party of Aung San Suu Kyi, the NLD, a landslide victory, and that has been cancelled. That's a coup.
Yes, but as Tai has already mentioned, this is not the first time that there's been an election while the military are in control. This has happened even during the junta days. The military would regularly hold elections. Of course, they were rigged elections, but they would still hold elections. So I think if we're really looking at the core of the problem, I think we have to go back to 2015 for the first election when Suu Kyi won power and officially became state councillor or de facto leader. That in itself was regarded as a free and fair election. But it wasn't a free and fair election to begin with, because in order for a free and fair election, what we understand of a free and fair election is that basically there should be a civilians who stand for
you're getting
election.
You're getting my viewers.
Move on from there. That is never the case because 25% of the vote is reserved for the army anyway.
Mabrur, you're talking a lot of technicalities. I want to make it very simple for our people. All those technicalities are fantastic for an academic conversation. We're not having one. We're just having a chat about what's going on the ground. There was an election. Even if the election was, in your view, not as good as you would like it to be, it has still been annulled. And a landslide victory has been declared as null and void. A military coup has taken, however you define military coup. NLD is not in power. The leadership is behind bars, or at least in house arrest, under house arrest. Military is back in power. That's what's happened, and that's what we want to analyze. Why do you think that's happened?
Like I said, I think firstly, to understand why it happened is that the military was always in control. Even before the election, even after the election. Even with the election, the military would have been in control. The military controls the Department of Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs, Defense. So these are the key departments of any government. They were always in control of that, according to their constitution anyway. Why has it been annulled? I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that under the current system, the election system that exists in Burma, there was no way that the military could legitimately hold on to power. And the NLD and Suu Kyi were making sounds of democracy, and it was an annoyance to the constitution writers and authors, the military. And so the sooner they were out of the picture, the more likely it is that they would not even be held to account internally, let alone externally.
Okay, let me invite my third guest, who has been waiting very patiently. Actually, we're trying to get the third guest connected, and we are not able to connect. So, does it mean it has been a bloodless coup? Tai, to you, has it been a bloodless coup. There has been no person killed, no person shot, nobody has been injured. The military just annulled the election.
I think it's a bit too early to say it's a bloodless coup because things are developing, and we heard that there is a lot of negotiation steps. Like they are asking, they're forcing the government member, NLD member, to resign, forcing. So if anyone agree to resign and they are they are free to go home, back home. So we don't know, like those who are refusing to resign or voluntarily, what's going to happen to them. For example, we are hearing that NLD president refused to resign voluntarily. So we don't know what's going to happen to him. So, and then it's not only like NLD member are arrested or detained. There are also civilian member are arrested. So what's going to happen to them? There is no enough information to decide that it is still bloodless or is it what kind of a coup is going. I think it's too early to say this thing. And what's going to happen to other people in the country who are also standing up against a coup? And what will be their reaction and what will be the government response? So that will be something we have to monitor in coming days and weeks.
Do you think the Burmese people will rise and would want to bring about a change? Do you think there's going to be a revolution of some nature?
There is certain already initiated by activists and the people. And for example, today there is a kind of civilian disobedience movement and striking at home at 8 p.m. and showing that we are against the coup. So those kind of movements are still very non-violence for now. But in coming day, we have to prepare for any kind of news coming out, because there is also a mob going around saying rallying, like saying pro Tamato, pro military demonstrations. So that might be some clash with the pro proxy demonstration held by accredited by the government. So how what will be happening and what can be respond, that is, as I said, is still a bit difficult. But I think there will be certain resistance will be, a movement will be coming out in coming days.
Do you think, Mabrur, do you think we can expect some sort of a people's revolution within Myanmar and see a real change, or is this just another as usual, business as usual thing that's going to happen?
I think there's a very real possibility. There's a track record of Burmese people coming out to protest in large numbers. There's been numerous times in the past where that's happened. So I think there is, quite a significant likelihood that there will be protests. And I'm afraid that if there are protests, then I don't think it will be bloodless. I think that it can get violent quite quickly. To be honest with you, the will of the Burmese people in the past has always been to favor democracy. They've been under military control for generations now, and they've seen the other side to a degree as well. So there is definitely a desire, a hunger for democracy and for more freedoms and for ethnic unities. It's just a case of if there is the first spark of movement to a protest en masse, and if there is, I'm afraid, I think we might be talking about darker days ahead.
I see. So you are expecting a military crackdown, which would cause a lot more, or at least a lot of misery and death and destruction.
Yes, I'm afraid I am expecting that, to be honest with you. There's already been a curfew put in place. We're in the second day of the coup. There's already a curfew in place from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. And what Ty was just mentioning, at 8 p.m. was when, a lot of civilian population came out, just how we did, kind of clap for carers and all of this kind of stuff, making a lot of sound at 8 o'clock. And there were some moving images that were shared on social media of people kind of non-violently protesting, for how long that will remain non-violent, and for how long people can actually endure yet another military-run establishment is just a matter of time, I believe.
But they've been under military rule for a long time. It's probably part and parcel of the culture of the people.
I think so, and I think there's a large degree of almost adhering to an authority, and what the military does in Burma is they regard that adherence as an adoration, and that's misplaced, of course. But at the same time, people are afraid to speak their mind. Most of free media has been shut down. People are afraid to speak their mind. We know that the internet was cut down. Telephone networks were brought down yesterday as well. People are afraid to speak their mind because if they do, it's very much dystopian, where they are looking over the shoulder and a big brother is watching.
So there is a real possibility of oppression. There is a real possibility of detention of masses of people, and even from the track record that we have seen before, you're suggesting that there could be a repeat of violence to the degree where the military may shoot openly on the civilians just to bring them under control if that happens.
Absolutely. The military is currently engaged in active war in at least 3 different states, in Rakhine State, in Karen State, and in Kachin State, where they are actively engaged in war with their own population. This is the same military that enacted a genocide on the Rohingya people, crimes against humanity and war crimes on the Karen, Shan, and the Kachin communities. This military is as despotic as any military in the history of mankind, and it now has almost complete control of the country. And it's, I think the one parallel that we can draw up now is, this military is very capable of violence, and when it has enacted that violence previously, the international community hasn't exactly, cried out about it, hasn't exactly moved with any sort of solidarity or any purpose. But suddenly Suu Kyi has been put behind, imaginary bars because, of course, she's actually under house arrest. And suddenly the whole world is up in arms. It seems, a little disjointed. The message of violence and the message of freedom seem disjointed. The freedom is only counted if it doesn't inconvenience anyone else. And the Rohingya seem to be an inconvenience, and so do the Karen and Shan and other ethnic communities seem to be an inconvenience to the liberal capitalism that the world wants to engage in with Burma.
Well, we're going to talk about all of that in a minute. I still want to know what's happening. We've been joined by our third guest who've been struggling to join, Dr. Wayne Niang, Chairman of National League for Democracy Organization Committee International. Welcome to our program.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Fine.
Very good. So tell us what's going on, what's happened, what has suddenly spurred the military to cancel an election?
This really is the crime against democracy. They robbed the power from the elected government. So they arrested all the elected person, the president, the state councillor, and all the elected, recently elected MPs. They have been arrested. It was told that they have been released, but the people are not going back because they are waiting for the leader's voice. They are waiting, still waiting what to do.
So do you know anyone who has been arrested? Yes, directly, do you know people?
Yes. Most of them I have already worked with most of them. About 30 years ago, I worked together. That's why I came over to do more activities from outside. I worked together with them.
So you of course, you are the, you're the chairman for the international committee on this particular, for the organization, Aung San Suu Kyi's party itself. And how many people have been arrested from your party?
More than 30 people, 30 people.
And they were all elected MPs, parliamentarians?
Yes. Some of them are chief ministers, some are ministers, some are elected MPs.
And do you agree? What do you say to the government who accuses the election of being rigged?
Because this is a power struggle. This senior general May Online, he wants to be a vice president. He organized other political parties. He met 34 party leaders, and they arranged before the election. They arranged to get a place in the parliament, but they didn't get it. That's why this thing happened. They did not get any votes. They don't. The people don't. They did not believe them, so they did not vote them, and then they badly lost. Our NLD won with the landslide 80% victory. That's why they did this job. That's the only thing.
Okay. We want to talk more about this with you and, of course, with our guests. So please don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what it is that made Aung San Suu Kyi go into a partnership with the devil, the very military that has cancelled the election that we see that took place only recently. Don't go too far away. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Let's Talk Again. We're talking about Myanmar, Burma burning again. Yes, it is. Not only burning internally, but it has been, the military junta has been very busy fighting lots of minorities in its own country. Brutal, I don't want to say genocide again and again, but it is nothing less than genocide. They have been responsible for kicking out millions of people from their homelands. Rakhine people, Rohingya people as we call them, living in refugee camps in Bangladesh. Sadly, Aung San Suu Kyi was not even prepared to recognize the existence of such a people, was not prepared to recognize that there was actually human rights violation. And what is even more tragic is that she was prepared to sacrifice the human rights of millions of people so that she could be in power. The very icon of democracy and freedom movement fell from the height of grace to disgrace almost, where people were calling for stripping her of her Nobel Prize, what she was prepared to do just for a bit of power. Or is that just me making up stories? Let's go back to Dr. Win Niang, chairman of NLD. Dr. Nyang, I know it's not going to be easy for you to hear this. Aung San Suu Kyi has fallen from grace to disgrace in the eyes of the world for her denial of what's happened to the Rohingya people. The very government, the very military she sided, is the very military now has come to bite her. How do you analyze all that?
This is politics, you know? This is politics. Politics is very mysterious, sometimes very tricky. So these people who did this job, they are the very foolish people. They don't think seriously.
Who are you talking about?
They do not understand what's going to happen.
Who are you talking about?
The people who robbed the power.
Oh, I see. So the military
who robbed power from the government, the people's government. They are very tricky, okay? They were saved by Aung San Suu Kyi at the Hague. Last year, kick her back and they bite her back. So that's why I told you, these people
but why would Aung San Suu Kyi advocate for the devil? Why would she come to Hague and defend a monstrous, murderous military junta? Why would she do that?
That is another subject, okay?
Why is it another subject?
Was the time of reconciliation. She tried to reconcile all the country people, including the army people and the civilians. She tried to reconcile.
But she did not even recognize Rohingya. She refused to use the word Rohingya. She said a BBC journalist, when she was being interviewed, she said, "Why did you get this Muslim woman to interview me?" She was clearly on the side of the Burmese junta when it comes to the murder of the Rohingyan people. And you were saying she was trying to reconcile. I don't see any evidence of reconciliation in her attitude.
That was her idea of working. I don't want to discuss anything about her, what she has done before. But at the moment, what we have to do is just to save the country and to save our people. That's it.
But just one type of people, the people who are Buddhist, and the rest of them can go to hell. As far as
all the people. I don't mean the religious thing. I don't mean the color. I don't mean the race. We have to save all the people. That's it.
Let's talk to other guests. Thank you for that. Mabrur, what do you say to that? Aung San Suu Kyi was trying to reconcile the very people who she is reconciling with, or she went to bed with, have now given her a taste of her own medicine.
There's two things, right? Number one is to be a genocide denier. So if she just went along with the whole idea that there was no genocide, and it didn't happen, that would be one thing. And then you have a genocider or a genocide enabler or a genocidaire, so someone who goes to the ICJ and International Court of Justice, the highest court in the world, and defends the actions of a military which has, by the UN themselves, have recognized it to be a genocide. I don't think you can call her anything other than a genocide enabler, a genocider herself. And so I would find it surprising if any NLD member or crony of the NLD or Suu Kyi would even use the word Rohingya, because I to this day, I haven't heard anyone use that term. Suu Kyi certainly hasn't. I think what the NLD are trying to position themselves with at the moment is Suu Kyi was held up as this icon of democracy and human rights, and the world almost came to her savior, holding her up with such esteem to out of house arrest and into power. And I think most of the NLD are now looking for international support for the same thing to happen again. But it can't happen again, because this time round, she doesn't have the safety and security of speaking of love and peace and all ethnic unity. She now has in her track record enabling genocide, defending genocide, and standing shoulder to shoulder with Min Aung Hlaing and the Burmese military, who have committed crimes against humanity, war crimes, and of course the crime of crimes.
So do you think law of nature, the very law of nature that she defied, has come to bite her pretty badly now that her government or her party won the election, and the very friend that she was trying to defend has decided to betray her and lock her up?
I think the thing is, we can talk about Schadenfreude and like kind of this almost happiness at her demise, and I don't think that's necessarily related to the Rohingya, and it comes back to bite her past actions and karma and all of this kind of stuff. I think the fact that she is no longer in power and the fact that she is now, under house arrest was always part and parcel of the military's idea of progress in Myanmar anyway. Suu Kyi was for them something that they could hold up, an idea that they could hold up to the world to convince the world that yes, we have democracy in our land. And she has served that purpose. She's gone beyond serving that purpose. She's gone to defend that very military and that very constitution, which is flawed, and their actions and crimes that they've committed. And now she's surplus to requirements right now. They're already on the world map. They're already trading with, Japan is a huge investor in Burma, and so are many other countries around the world. Burma's come out of this pariah state. It's come out from the abyss, if you like, and is now a trading partner with many countries around the world. So they no longer need this icon to convince the world that they have democracy. They're already trading.
Interesting. Coming back to you, Taik, the same question to you. What do you make of Aung San Suu Kyi's position? Is it untenable that she was, as far as Mabrur is concerned, a genocide enabler, and she was a defender of a genocidal maniac? She came to The Hague and stood up to defend those people. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's true that she have when she was in opposition party, and she was an opposition leader, she has been defended on all kind of any crime. But when she became in power from slightly from 2012, she has actively supported military crime, and then being the last obvious was like being in The Hague, defending the Tamato crimes. military crimes against Rohingya. And then also other ethnic issue like a Kachin, like a different ethnic issue. The NLD has not been really taken in their agenda, as also Dr. Win said. It's an NLD vision of reconciliations with the army. So NLD has only got this agenda of their vision as a reconciliation with army. They thought that defending army is a reconciliation process. Why the civilian for us is not the agenda. We want more a society where it's all the fighting for injustice, like we want NLD governments, but which is not the case. Yeah, so it could be like her own vision, or can be also that some NLD member visions, the way they went down through this supporting, actively defending military crimes in their time in the whole 2015 to until like 2020.
Let me take a call. Hello, assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello, sir. Walaikum salam. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. You?
Very good. What would you like to say?
Yeah, listen, my friend, it's not surprising, but yeah, and I'm glad in some ways that this woman is no longer where she is, and two-faced as they are. The military, the junta, the military has shown itself for what it is, bloodthirsty, nasty bunch, and she's no different. But she has innocent blood on her hands. They're two cheeks of the same backside, Both of them are devilish, daughter of the devil, Satan's sister. I don't know what's going to come of any of this. Will the West do anything, the wicked West? Because she seems to be one of their stooges. And I don't know.
All this time, the other atrocities that have been going on, nobody was saying anything. But now, we've had many of our leaders speak up for Aung San Suu Kyi and saying you should not have arrested her. Have you seen our leaders saying that?
See that? The problem is these so-called, they're not my leaders, but these people from the West. Look, she is a Western stooge.
You keep on saying they're not your leaders. You live in Britain. They're your people. We are.
Yeah, but I didn't vote for them, my friend. I don't like them.
It doesn't matter who you voted for. Majority wins, and then you accept that as your leader. Now, you may say, I disagree with my leader, but you can't just dismiss it in...
No, but he's not my leader. That's my... No, that's for me to say. You can say that for yourself.
Okay.
This is for me to say, okay?
Fair enough.
You don't get to say that for me.
Okay, good. But I've got your point. Thank you. Very good point. Now, over to you, Dr. Nyang, where my guest, my caller is saying he's happy that Aung San Suu Kyi has been arrested. A two-faced person shouldn't be trusted.
That's his point of view. This is freedom. That's his freedom. He can say whatever he thinks. It's not the problem. That is his point of view, isn't right? So I don't want to disagree with him. I don't want to agree with him. That is his point of view. So
but do you have a view about what our guest also said, Mabrur Ahmed, that NLD, perhaps including yourself, I don't know, but I'm going to ask you, do you recognize that the people of Rakhine region, the Rohingya people, have actually been massacred, genocide has been committed against them, and they've been driven out of their homes in their millions? They're living in Bangladesh in refugee camps. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I was 7,000 away from the land, from my motherland, but I heard of it. I remember that FEDA, it happened. That's why it was taken action.
So do you think Rohingya people exist?
That is out of this subject.
No, it's not. It's part of our conversation because we're talking about Burma and the future of Burma and future of democracy in Burma. And people of Rohingya are also part of Burma. And if you're not going to be able to say they exist, then there is a problem.
Yes, they came into our country. They were there.
So they came into your country from where?
From Bangladesh.
And how many hundreds of years do they have to live in Burma to be Burmese?
I don't know really. I was out of the country for.
No, but you've only been out of the country.
This is the problem. You see, this is the problem with this, with why there isn't enough support from the general population towards what's happening in Burma. Because
Mabrur, one second.
This very notion
Mabrur,
of
just
not
one
recognizing that these people even exist.
Mabrur, just 1 second. Let me ask that question. So, Dr. Wan, I know, Nian, I know you said you've been out of the country for the last 10, 15 years. I understand that. That's not a problem.
30 years, 3 decades.
Okay, 30 years. But you know, Rohingya people, the people in Myanmar, in Rakhine region, Rohingya people, have lived on that land for nearly 1,000 years. And now, if you are going to deny a people, you are actually denying their existence. In other words, you have already committed a genocide by denying their existence.
I did not do anything to those people.
But you have just denied their existence.
No, I don't want to discuss this subject. This is out of my awareness. I don't know anything about it.
You don't know anything about 1.8 million Rohingya people who are living in Bangladesh in refugee camps. I'm a British citizen. I've lived in this country for 50 years. Even I have gone to the Rohingya camps and seen them with my own eyes in Bangladesh. You're telling me they don't exist?
No. What I mean to say is, I only do my job. I only do my what I have to. I'm saying that I don't want to argue anything about it.
No, but nobody's arguing. We are saying Burma needs a solution, and it needs a solution from all angles. It needs its minorities. It needs its Buddhist majority. It needs all communities. And if you're going to deny one community's existence, my friend, you're not going to get much support in the world.
What I know is now they are allowed to, they are planning for repatriation. They are doing all sorts of things what they can do for them.
So repatriation of the people that were driven out by the military junta, and where your leader failed to recognize that they've been driven out, that a genocide had taken place. She had gone to Hague to defend the genocidal maniac, and you are here now telling me they're repatriating who and what?
They are repatriating into where they have been living. That's it.
Okay, over to you, Mabrur. I've asked him enough questions. Go on.
I'm at a loss for words. Look, I have a genuine concern about the democracy and the freedom of the people of Burma. Yes, I have an agenda. I work with the Rohingya people. And so that's the reason why I have an agenda of caring and wanting the best for everyone in Burma as well. In any society and in any community, if we ignore certain aspects of that community, then there really doesn't tend to be much sympathy from outlookers. And I think that's the situation that we're in with the world at the moment. No one wants to have any democratically elected government, politician to be, arrested. That goes against all of our freedoms. A problem in a country like Myanmar, where a military can come in and take over democratically elected people, is a problem for people everywhere in the world, because it happened to any one of us. So that's why we have to be strong in resisting this. But the very same people who are trying to defend, we would like to defend the NLD. We would like to defend Suu Kyi as the democratically elected person. But there first has to be some recognition that, okay, we have made some mistakes. There first has to be some recognition of the people who have been expelled from your land, a genocide has been committed against them. We first have to acknowledge, at least, that has happened. Then, I think you will find plenty of sympathy from around the world. Just like if it was to happen in any other country in the world, we would all be up in arms. So we should all be up in arms about what's happening in Burma. I think really, honestly and truly, in order for Burma to move forward, it has to be shot of this military junta that's there, and it has to be shot of Suu Kyi. Neither of those two parties will enable a positive and secure future for Myanmar.
Let's go to Taik. Let's go to Taik. Taik, you are a Myanmar citizen. You are a Burmese citizen. Whichever title you take, I respect both of the names, so no problem. Do you think Aung San Suu Kyi and the military have any role to play in providing a future with democracy and rule of law and rights of minorities? Do you think they have a role to play?
I think NLD has proven they are incapable of building a democracy, inclusive democracy, and respecting everyone freedom and human right, all minority, including Rohingya, other Kachin and things. So I think we need a new generation leader who can lead this country with their open-minded and progressive thought and open discussions, because NLD has failed to discuss so many issues in the country, and then NLD has a stand to compromise more than necessary with the Tamato and with the military. So that has also have wasted time in last 5 years. So I don't think NLD is capable. I think we need new generation who would like to really stand up and discuss and think and do together. And then as everyone has a right to live in this country with the freedom and human right. Of course, the army is a problem, but to be able to really counter, and then this has to be really a strong voice. It's not like you can compromise a lot and then be in the fall, and just not for your power. It has to be come for the people inclusive in the compromise. Of course, there is a ceasefire agreement, and then we have a Penlong conference ongoing, where there is also a lot of problem for the political settlements with the other ethnic group, and where NLD is also urging the other group to really compromise with the military. So this is not gonna work, because the country is composed of different ethnic groups, and has to respect everyone's right, including Rohingya, including other ethnic groups. NLD is proven that they are not capable of bringing their own people together, although they were kind of taking a political leadership in 1988 revolution. And then there is a lot of failure after during their power, where they're actually in power. So we have supported NLD when they were in opposition and leading the 88 generation. I'm sure, like many of you. So and they have, since they have proven they are not really capable of
who is
taking the people's voices during their when they are in the power. So I believe that we have to find a new political forces. Either there is still a progressive voice in the NLD member, I mean, who are still controlled by top leaders. So I think we could find new forces, either some who are still have a different voices in NLD, and different people and from activism. This has to be how, if you want a Myanmar moving forward and with the prospect of democracy, inclusive democracy and human rights, and who can really negotiate the civilian position.
Thank you very much. That's very good. Now, to all my three guests, thank you for that. Stay there. When I come back, I do want to ask, is NLD capable of leading Burma into true freedom, into a true democracy where human rights and rights of all minorities and majority are respected? That's the question I'm going to be asking Chairman of NLD from the UK, of course, this very question when we get back straight after this break. So don't go too far away. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our program. We're talking about Burma. How can we see Burma become more democratic? How do we help Burmese people of Myanmar, become more democratic? Rule of law, freedom, human rights, democracy. Individual people have their freedom to do whatever they want as long as it's within the law. How can we help Myanmar achieve that? And the very organization, the very political group or the party, the very poster girl, we called her, of democracy and freedom, the struggle against military junta, Aung San Suu Kyi, who has been at the forefront of Burmese government or Burmese people's struggle, Myanmar's struggle to freedom, has now become the very confused person that we never thought she would be. The question is NLD capable of offering effective leadership and a better vision for the future? Let's start that question to Dr. Win Nang, who is the chairman of NLD, organization committee internationally, of course. Dr. Nang, thank you for staying with us. Thank you for being with us. Do you think, as Taik says, do you agree with her that your organization is no longer capable of providing leadership to the people of Myanmar?
I think she need more experience about Burma. I do not think she has enough experience. What happened in Burma since 1948, since we gained the independence from the British government, okay? And what happened after 1958 election, 1962 military coup, 1988 military coup. We have suffered that bitter experience for nearly 60 years, 6 decades. NLD led the people to get the democracy. In 1988, we have a very serious political uprising. After that, NLD led the people to get out of the dictatorship. Fortunately, we did that independence from the military dictatorship 2015. So they worked 5 years to save the people, to save the country from the LCT, least development status. Now it is nearly coming out of the LDC, and now lots of the economic investments coming in, and now we are booming up, nearly booming up the economics. So unfortunately, these foolish people who the power, that's it. But they have declared that they are not arresting, they are not detaining the leaders, the MPs, they are just in discussion. So we don't know what's going to happen. This is very unpredictable situation in our country. So I can't say what's to happen in the near future. Okay, but what I know is now I got a message that the people will start doing civil disobedience movements. Lots of engineers, lots of doctors, lots of civil servants, they are resigning from the service. So it happened when her father, Aung San Suu Kyi's father, General Aung San, was young, and he led the people against the British government. That time it happened that civil disobedience movements, and the British government has given him a posting in the government. It also happened in this British country. The people tried to do 2 months disobedience, and then the government they requested the people to come in, and they release all the things. That's why I'm telling you, we don't know what's going to happen in future, in very near future, but I know that majority of the people are against this military regime. They are doing against the team. Even they are banging the tents at 8 o'clock. All the people are doing this. They are start doing this, the demonstrations. So it is very difficult to predict what's going to happen. But as far as I know, in my age, according to my age, I'm now over 70. Okay, since the age of 10, I have been doing these pro-democratic activities because my father was a member of parliament in democratic government. And then my older brother was also a member of parliament in exile government based in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, he was arrested. He was assassinated in China. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
What I mean to say is we have tried a lot, but it is the fate of the country, the nation, how it will happen.
Okay, let's unpack some of the things you have just said. Let's unpack some of the things that you have said, because your internet is also coming in and out. So just stay there for a second if you don't mind. Mabrur, Myanmar is doing pretty well. Economy is booming, countries are trading, country is getting better, is progressing, and yet you're complaining.
I mean, I'm not complaining about what's happening inside Burma. You know, the question of the NLD and democracy. Look, the NLD have been democratically with a populist vote, and it's an overwhelming majority have been voted into power. So we cannot deny their right to assume power. That's not up for question. But if we're going to talk about democracy, then alongside democracy comes freedom and human rights. Now, I am not a Myanmar citizen, so I'm not speaking as a Myanmar citizen, I'm speaking as a global citizen. As a global citizen, if I know that there is a country which is exercising some form of democracy and claiming for it to be a full democracy, but not exercising other parts, for example, human rights and freedoms, then that in definition is not a democracy. And that's the kind of ordeal that we're dealt with. You know, if we're talking about the better of the two, yes, the NLD is of course a better entity than the military. And it's a better entity because it has checks in place as a democratically elected civilian-led organization, whereas the military has all the might and power that a state can endow, and with all the weaponry as well. So, you know, of course, the NLD is a better proposition than the military. And the immediate step right now should be for a call to the democratic norm that has been in existence for the last 5 years. The next step after that is about talking about human rights and about freedoms and about equality. And when we talk about those things, then we do have to talk about ethnic clashes. But without question, you know, the Myanmar population wants the NLD in power. They do not want the military in power. And that should be respected first and foremost.
So you think NLD is capable of giving people within Myanmar better hope?
I don't think it's capable. I think it's legitimate. They have a mandate. Do I think they're capable? I don't think they're capable. They've shown time and time again that they're not capable. They have proven to be strong opposition to the military, mostly the only opposition to the military. But in the last 5 years, okay, if we talk about economic upturns, yes, tick, they have achieved that. If we're talking about foreign investment, yes, they've achieved that. If we're talking about being, open to diplomatic tables around the world, yes, they've achieved that. But they've also achieved genocide, right? So let's balance things out here. Genocide will always overturn and override any good that a regime can bring.
But don't you think
it is the thing that we created the UN for? It is the reason why we say never again.
Don't you think it's better to have a free country for the majority at the expense of a small minority who has to pay the price?
Of course not. Of course not. You know, I would not be a human rights activist if I was to advocate something like that. Equality means equality for everyone, everywhere, all the time.
Okay, let's take a call. Thank you. 1 second. Hello, assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Go ahead.
So, you know, I was just wondering, you know, like Burma, now they have this military coup. But why are we so concerned? It's not going to, like, when they had this Suki government, she didn't do anything, did she? Yeah, the Rohingyas were getting murdered. They were getting butchered. And it was everywhere. It was on Facebook. The villages were burned. Yeah, the small children were killed. We didn't see this lady doing anything. She goes to flipping Arakan and telling the people, okay, that's nothing. That's absolutely fine. She didn't even shed a single tear. But when this lady was, you know, when she was freed, we're so happy. We're like, you know what? Myanmar is going to change. Burma is going to change. The people, the ordinary people are going to have a better life. These Rohingyas are going to have a better life. But what did she do? 1 million of them was kicked out. Yeah, the women were raped, murdered. But you know what hurts me more is the ordinary people, amount of hate they had for these Rohingyas. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. Why they have so much hate? These Rohingyas, they literally live in a little corner of the country. They have no rights. They mind their own business. Yeah, they were living their life. They're doing whatever they can do. And now these people, now we're crying for these people, and we're meant to feel sorry for these people? No. We want Suu Kyi to rot in hell. We want her to rot in the bloody military prison.
Well, those are strong words. Thank you for calling. Not sure if we agree with what you've said. You heard that, Dr. Naing, that our viewers are quite outraged by the failure of your government or your party to recognize all people's rights equally, and all human beings are worth equal. And Aung San Suu Kyi has failed to even shed one tear for the sufferings of millions of Rohingyan people. You heard my caller. What do you have to say to him?
I have nothing to say. That's their point of view. I don't want to argue anything.
But it looks like you are taking a very conveniently easy route out. When it comes to Aung San Suu Kyi's failure, you say nothing. When it comes to everybody else's failure, you're very quick to assess.
We are trying our best, okay, to come out of the military dictatorship. That's it.
But you are saying, in that process, a few Rohingyans getting killed, a few Rohingyans getting kicked out of their country, it's a good price to pay for the freedom of your country.
I don't mean that. I don't want to involve that matter. I'm away from that. I don't argue about that matter. What I'm saying is we are trying to get free from the military dictatorship. That's it.
So if you are free from the military dictatorship, and if NLD is given the opportunity to form a government, would it, tell me the truth, would it investigate what happened in Rohingya? Would it actually find out actual truth in order to find reconciliation? Or would it just do a cover-up and say, reconciliation, forget about the truth?
By myself, I respect all the races, all the religion. Okay? I wish to be happening what you have told me, asked me earlier. I agree with you. It should be happening.
It should have happened already. But
yeah.
if you form a government, will you do this immediately?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a good promise. And the second question to you, sir, is that are you going to give some reassurance to the young lady who is with us in our program, who is a student and who is also a Rohingyan national, who says you guys are not capable of providing anything for the country, you are just not really there for the people?
I have sympathization to those Rohingya people who suffered a lot, okay? I was very sorry to hear about what happened, but I can't do anything at the moment. So if the government come up with the democracy, it will happen. It should happen.
Okay. Taik, are you convinced that just give NLD a chance to be able to rid the country of the military junta so that they can establish Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Rohingya people and give you hope?
I think, first of all, I want to still respond because 88 generation or whatever revolution is not only led by NLD, it's led by people. So I think we cannot really say only NLD is leading. Even now, all the civilian disobedience or all the revolutions against coup is also leading by the people and the civilians and not only NLD member. So I think it's very unfair to say that NLD is leading and NLD is helping to get off the coup. I think we have to give credit to the people. People include ordinary people, even like on the 2007 suffrage revolution, all people participate, farmer, ethnic people, students are the main front line of the revolution. So I think the credit should be going now. Even now, we can get out of the current coup. The credit has to go to the public because it's not NLD, it's really only the leading everything. Yes.
So do you want to give Dr. Naing a chance? Dr. Naing, would you like to recognize actually that the current revolution, the protest movement is actually being led by people, not just NLD?
Yeah, but the public is leading.
Okay.
The community, all the community people are leading.
That was easily got your recognition there. Type?
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
people have to do this.
Yeah, it include even Rohingya. It include the Kachin. It include Korean. It include all ethnic. It include like a different class people. It includes people from different foreign. It include people from exile. So I think it's not only NLDs. Everyone has led this revolution. Everyone has a help to get off the coup. And then what is frustration for me is everyone has helped the NLD to be in the front line of this politics. However, they have forgotten all the people has given their life in the prison, in the outside. People has lost their life in the country. They are never ever able to go back to their family. So all the sacrifice has been thrown away with the so-called NLD agenda of reconciliation. That is how I will feel. I will feel frustration against NLD. So the question to back is NLD capable of doing or not? I don't want to say. I think people are capable of things. So people who are capable of things has a chance to do this revolution again, make my country better, make there a better government. So I think that will be the good solution for NLD has to agree also saying that this is the time to really reform themselves and invite the people who can have a better fate of this country.
Okay, thank you. Let me take a call and then I'll come back to the guests. Hello, caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, alaikum.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask a question to direct to the doctor that you have on the studio.
Yes, go ahead.
So basically, he's been saying throughout that he doesn't want to. He respects all this religious and he doesn't want to. But at the same time, he's saying he doesn't want to comment on Rohingya's people. That doesn't make sense to me as a viewer. But one hand, you are saying you respect every religious, and then you ask when it comes to the truth about Rohingya people, you trying to avoid this and doesn't want to answer that questions. As a doctor, I think that's not right. That's not the right person to come to the studio and take one side.
Okay, well, thank you for that call. I'm going to go over to Mabrur and then I'll come to the doctor. Mabrur, you heard Dr. Win Nyang making a promise that if NLD wins the election, or is able to form the government and is able to rid the country of the military junta's grip on power, then they will definitely hold an investigation, hold Truth and Reconciliation Commission about what happened to the Rohingya people. That's a great progress, no?
I would say you're only as good as your last movie. And what I mean by that is when Suu Kyi came into power and NLD came into power in 2015, they oversaw, it was relatively peaceful in Rakhine State. They oversaw some sort of ceasefire in Karen State and in Kachin State. And during that time, during her 5 years of rule, we saw a genocide against the Rohingya people and crimes against humanity against the Shan, the Karen, and the Kachin people. And they didn't do any reconciliation then. There was no investigation at the time when they were in power. So why should anyone, for that matter, believe that given another chance, now they will definitely hold people?
Okay, thank you for that. Let me go to Dr. Win Nyang before we finish our program. Why would people believe you now? When you were in power, you failed.
This is the different individuality, different people has different kinds of thoughts. Okay, so what I'm telling you is, if I were in that place, in that position, I would do that.
I understand. You're a doctor, a medical
Yes.
doctor, I'm assuming.
Yes.
You work in a hospital?
Yes.
If a Rohingya person came to you, if a non-Rohingya person came to you, if a person from other ethnic minorities from within Burma came to you, would you turn them away?
No.
Okay. So
even we have ethics. We have oath.
Yes, you have that.
The enemies we have to treat.
Correct. So in your country, why don't you apply the same rule for all people? Why is it that only majority Buddhist communities get all the privileges and everybody else is hounded out of their country.
I don't agree with that. I didn't have any experience of that. I was about 40 years ago, I was a township medical officer. Okay, I treated all the people. Even I treated the un-ethnic people who were at the time called insurgents. I treated them for the what you call malaria. So I never.
You never experienced it 50 years ago, but 5 years of Aung San Suu Kyi's rule saw a genocide against the Rohingyans. That should not have happened.
That is led by the military people.
Okay, and
that
you want to
military people.
Okay.
We do not have any authority to order to participate in their job. That is different. What you call the division of the government.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, Doctor. Doctor, very clear. It's military's power. But your leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, came to The Hague to defend the military. She could have said, I'm not going. You guys can go and defend yourself. Why did she come and defend the military?
I don't know about her decision and her job. This is what I'm telling you. But I can tell what I know about this.
I understand. I get it.
I can know her thoughts.
I understand. I understand, Doctor. Your body language gave it all away. You have resigned to the reality that this is what's happened and it should never have happened. Over to you, Taik, to finish off our program. What hope do you have for Myanmar? Give me one sentence of a hopeful future for yourself and for your country.
New political movement and new political forces. What we need for a hope for in Burma.
And Mabrur, what's your political hope for people of Myanmar and Burma?
Burma can change. It needs to look internally rather than externally. Externally, the Western powers will say all types of things, but internally there needs to be major political reform. I'm hopeful that there is enough desire and hunger and thirst for that reform and democracy to actually return.
And last sentence from Doctor, what's your hope for Myanmar?
We'll get the freedom. If I have a chance, I would like to invite this young lady to come and work in our country with us. Okay, that's it.
Why just this young lady? Why not me?
You are also welcome. Everybody welcome. Everybody are friends.
Thank you very much. I've always
welcome you all.
Thank you. I've always had this fantasy of Myanmar, Burma. It's like a childhood fantasy, reading lots and lots of books about the struggle of the Burmese people. I remember reading novels. I remember reading real stories from very young age. So I'm very familiar. So I have this image of Burma. So one day, inshallah, I'll be able to go there and see it with my own eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of our program time, unfortunately. I'm going to thank Mabrur Ahmad, Dr. Win Nang and Taik for their time and their contribution. I'd like to thank you for your time, for so much time you've given to watch our program. I can't believe, as well as your calls. Just to finish off, all human beings are equal, ladies and gentlemen. Every one of us have the right to live, have our life protected, have our property protected, have our families protected, our faith protected, our honor and dignity protected. What Myanmar needs is freedom, democracy and rule of law for all people. And what Myanmar needs is to rid itself of military and anyone who supports the military. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, from myself and from my team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.